When I looked into that being's eyes, I felt that my life would never be the same again. His words still echo in my mind like a sacred mantra. You have been chosen for a special mission. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea or just some water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. But let me go back a bit so you can understand how we got here, because up until 3 months ago, I was literally at rock bottom. One of those moments in life when you wake up in the morning and the first thing that comes to mind is, why exactly am I here? My name is Daniel. I'm 36 years old, and if you had met me back then, you would have seen a guy who was completely lost. I had just lost my job at a company where I worked for 8 years. Layoffs. You know how it is. My marriage was hanging by a thread with constant fights about money and the future. And to complete the picture, my mother had discovered aggressive lung cancer. It was as if the universe had decided to test me to the limit. I, who had always been that optimistic guy who believed everything worked out in the end, was sinking into a heavy depression. It got to a point where I barely left the house. I would just lie there on the couch watching anything on TV just so I wouldn't be alone with my thoughts. Elena, my wife, tried to help me at first. Dan, you need to react, she would say. Go for a walk, see a psychologist, do something. But I couldn't. It was like having an enormous weight on my chest, a fog in my mind that wouldn't let me see any way out. And it was on one of those totally sleepless nights, you know, the ones where you're tossing and turning in bed until 4 inches the morning, that I decided to go for a walk. I couldn't stand being within 4 walls anymore. I put on a jacket and left without a destination, just to feel the cold dawn air on my face. I live in a small town, one of those that turns into a ghost town after 10 at night. Empty streets, just the sound of my footsteps on the asphalt, and that heavy silence that seems to amplify all your problems. I walked aimlessly until I reached a secluded square, somewhat dark, where I usually go when I need to think. I sat on a bench and started to cry. Not that controlled crying, you know, that crying of someone who can't take it anymore. What kind of life is this? I thought. Is it really worth continuing to try? That's when it happened. First, I felt a strange tingling at the back of my neck. Then, a sensation that someone was watching me. I lifted my head, wiped my eyes, and that's when I saw it. A golden light, soft, began to form on the other side of the square. It wasn't like the light from a street lamp or a car. It was something different, more alive, if that makes sense. The light kept growing, becoming more intense, but without hurting the eyes. On the contrary, it was comforting, as if it brought a peace I hadn't felt in months. My first instinct was to run away. My rational mind was screaming, "Dude, you're having a breakdown. This isn't real." But my feet seemed glued to the ground. It wasn't paralysis from fear. It was as if a very deep part of me knew that this, however impossible it seemed, was exactly what I needed. The light began to take shape. First, a tall, elegant silhouette. Then, the contours became clearer. And that's when I saw him. He wasn't like those aliens from the movies, you know. No giant head or scary black eyes. He was beautiful. That's the only word I can use. He was about 6'1", 2 feet tall, with skin of a soft, almost translucent golden tone. His eyes were large, yes, but they conveyed a wisdom and compassion I had never seen in any human being. He approached slowly, like someone who doesn't want to frighten a wounded animal, and it was when our eyes met that I felt. How can I explain? It was as if he could see through me, not just my body, but my entire soul, all the fears, all the pain, all that anguish that was consuming me. But instead of judgment, what I saw in his eyes was pure love, a compassion so deep that it made me cry again, but this time with relief. And that's when he spoke. Not with his mouth. Actually, I'm not sure if he had a mouth like ours. The voice came directly into my mind, but it wasn't intrusive. It was like it was my own voice, only loaded with a wisdom I would never possess. "Daniel," he said, and hearing my name like that made me shiver all over. "You have been chosen for a special mission." And man, at that moment, even without understanding anything that was happening, I knew that my life had just changed forever. But let me tell you better who I am, because maybe you'll identify with my story. Like I said, I'm Daniel, 36 years old. I've always been one of those guys who believes in the good in people. I grew up in a simple family here in the interior of São Paulo. My father was a mechanic, and my mother was a housewife. I learned early on that hard work and honesty were the most important values in life. I finished my business administration degree by working hard. I worked during the day at a construction material store and studied at night. I met Elena in the first semester. She was studying education at the same college. It was love at first sight. You know, one of those where you look at the person and think, it's her. It's with her that I want to build a family. After graduating, we managed to stabilize ourselves. She started teaching at a municipal school and I joined this logistics company where I ended up staying 8 years. I started as an administrative assistant and worked my way up gradually. I wasn't rich, but our life was good. We had our plans, buy our own house, have children, travel at least once a year. But life has its own plans, right? In 2019, the company started showing signs that things weren't going well. Clients canceling contracts, salary delays. I, who had always been too optimistic, kept believing everything would work out. It's just a bad phase, I told Elena. Things will get better soon. But they didn't get better. The first round of layoffs was in March 2020. I barely escaped. The second was in August. This time they took half the staff, including several close friends. I was already on edge, sending resumes everywhere. But the market was crazy. Everyone looking for jobs, few positions available. That's when my mother called with that news no child wants to hear. Dan, I need to tell you something. I went to the doctor for some routine tests, and her voice trembled. They found a spot on my lung, son. Man, it was like taking a punch to the stomach. My mother had always been my hero. You know, that strong woman who raised 3 children practically alone when my father got sick. Seeing her like that, afraid, destroyed me inside. The tests confirmed lung cancer in advanced stage. The doctor was direct. With aggressive treatment, we have chances of controlling the disease, but it's going to be a difficult battle. And that's when my world really started to collapse, because it wasn't enough to be worried about my unstable job. Now, I had to deal with the possibility of losing my mother. The hospital bills started arriving. Her health insurance didn't cover everything. My siblings and I had to pull money to pay for the treatments. Elena, poor thing, tried to keep me strong. Love, everything will work out, she would say. Your mother is a fighter, and about work, you'll find something better. But I could see in her eyes that she was worried too. Our joint account was in the red. We stopped going out, cancelled plans, cut everything that was superfluous. And it was in December 2020 that the final blow came. They called me to HR, and I already knew what was coming. Daniel, you know, we really like your work, but unfortunately, blah blah blah, the usual speech. In the end, 2 weeks, notice, and goodbye. 8 years of my life thrown away. I remember arriving home that afternoon and telling Elena. She tried to hide it, but I saw she panicked. And now, Dan, what are we going to do? I didn't know how to answer. For the first time in my life, I didn't have a plan B. The first months of 2021 were the worst of my life. I woke up every day promising I would send resumes, network, look for opportunities. But then I would sit at the computer and such a great discouragement would hit me that I couldn't do anything. I would just sit there scrolling through social media, seeing everyone happy, everyone employed, everyone carrying out incredible projects. And me, I was there. A 6-year-old failure, unemployed, watching my mother waste away in the hospital, and my marriage wearing down day after day. Elena started getting irritated with me, and I understand. She went out every day to work, and came home to find her husband in the same place, wearing the same clothes with the same discouraged face. Dan, you need to react, she would say. You can't stay like this. But the thing is, she didn't understand. It wasn't laziness or lack of will. It was like having a black hole inside my chest, sucking all my energy, all my hope. I, who had always been the positive guy in the group, the one who cheered everyone up, was completely broken inside. It got to a point where I couldn't even visit my mother in the hospital anymore. Seeing her there, weak, bald from chemotherapy, asking me how things were going with work. I didn't have the courage to tell the truth. I lied, said everything was fine, that something would show up soon, but inside, I was screaming, I'm a failure. I can't even take care of my own family. That's how I ended up in that square, that dawn, completely defeated, without hope, thinking that maybe it would be better if I just disappeared. If you've been through something similar, leave it in the comments. Because I discovered I wasn't alone in this struggle. And what happened after that night changed not only my life, but my entire understanding of what we're really capable of doing when we find our true purpose. Going back to that dawn in the square. After the being said those words, "You have been chosen for a special mission," I was silent for a few seconds. My brain was trying to process what the hell was happening. Is this real? I asked, and my voice came out rougher than normal. Or have I finally lost it completely? He smiled. I don't know how to explain it properly because his face was different from ours, but I could feel it was a smile full of patience and understanding. Daniel, the voice continued, echoing in my mind, I know you're confused. I know your mind is trying to find logical explanations for what your eyes are seeing. This is natural, but I ask you to breathe deeply and just feel. And man, when he said that, something strange happened. A wave of calm invaded my entire body. It was as if someone had injected pure peace into my veins. That constant anxiety that had accompanied me for months simply disappeared. Who? What are you? I managed to ask. We are beings from a superior dimension, he replied, approaching a few more steps. We come from a place that you still cannot completely comprehend. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is that we are here to help. Help? Help with what? That's when he did something that gave me chills all over. He extended what seemed to be a hand longer than ours, with delicate fingers in my direction. When I hesitated, he said, Trust me, Daniel. I'm going to show you something you need to see. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was that feeling of peace he transmitted. But I extended my hand and touched his. What happened next was indescribable. Suddenly, I wasn't in the square anymore. It was like we were floating in a completely different dimension. Around us there was a soft golden light, and I could see our city, but from a perspective I had never imagined. What do you see, Daniel? He asked. I looked around, and that's when I realized. I wasn't just seeing the buildings, the streets, the houses. I was seeing the people, but not their physical bodies. It was like I could see their souls, energies. I don't know the right word, and man, what I saw left me breathless. There were points of light in each person, but many were weak, flickering, some almost going out. And suddenly I understood that those lights represented each person's health, vitality, hope. Your city is sick, Daniel, he said. And his voice carried deep sadness, not just physically, but spiritually. People have lost connection with their own life force. They've lost faith in healing, in transformation, in the possibility of a better life. But I can't do anything, I replied, feeling that familiar sensation of helplessness. Look at me. I'm a disaster myself. I can't even solve my own life. That's when he did something that changed everything. He placed that long hand on my chest, right in the center. And immediately, I felt an incredible energy coursing through my entire body. It was like every cell was being recharged, renewed. Daniel, he said, and now his voice had a tone of revelation. You don't see who you really are. Since childhood, you've possessed a rare gift. A gift of energy healing that can transform the lives of people around you. Healing gift? What are you talking about? Remember when you were little and your grandmother got sick? When you put your hands on her chest and she said she felt better? Damn. How did he know that? My maternal grandmother always had heart problems. I must have been 8 or 9 years old. Every time she had a crisis, I would run to her and keep my little hands on her chest. She always said, "Oh, little Dan, you have angel hands. Grandma's feeling better already." At the time, I thought it was just grandmother's affection, something from imagination. Remember your friends at school, how they always looked for you when they were sad or hurt? I remembered. Yes, I was always the guy everyone looked for when they had some problem. Dan, talk to me, they would say. You always make me feel better. I thought it was just because I was a good listener. And your mother? He continued. In recent months, how many times have you visited her in the hospital? And in all those visits, didn't she have an improvement? Even if temporary, right after you left? This hit me like a punch. It was true. Every time I went to visit my mother, even on days when she was very bad, a few hours later, she would call saying she was feeling a little better. The doctors even commented about these inexplicable improvements she had after our conversations. Those are coincidences, I murmured, but I wasn't so sure anymore. There are no coincidences, Daniel. There's only universal energy flowing through special people like you. The problem is that you humans have lost connection with this knowledge. You've forgotten that you possess healing powers that go beyond the understanding of traditional medicine. The vision began to dissolve, and we returned to the square. But now I felt completely different. That energy he had put in me was still pulsing. I felt more alive than in the last few months combined. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because the time has come for you to awaken to your true purpose, he replied. Your depression, your problems, this feeling of being lost. All of this happened to prepare you for this moment. For you to understand what it is to suffer, to develop compassion, to become a channel of healing for others who are going through the same thing. I looked at him, still trying to process all of that. You mean that I can really help people, heal people with the right training? Yes. I can teach you to completely awaken this gift, to direct this energy consciously, to become a true energy healer. And it was at that moment that I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, palpable hope. But why me, I asked. Why not someone better, more prepared? He approached once more and placed that hand on my shoulder. Because Daniel, the best healers are those who intimately know pain. They are those who descended to the bottom of the pit and found strength to return to the surface. Your journey up to here wasn't by chance. It was your preparation. His words kept echoing in my mind for a few seconds. Preparation. Everything I had lived through, unemployment, depression, seeing my mother suffering, had been preparation. I don't understand, I said. What do you mean, preparation? He stepped back a few paces and gestured toward the city that stretched around us. Daniel, to be a true healer, you need to have genuine compassion. And genuine compassion is only born through the experience of pain. You needed to understand what it is to feel lost, hopeless, abandoned by the universe. Only then could you really connect with those you would come to help. It made sense in a strange way. In recent months, when I met people on the street or in supermarket lines who seemed as discouraged as I was, I felt an immediate connection. It was like I recognized in them the same emptiness I carried. Your mission, he continued, is to awaken and completely develop your gift of energy healing. But it's not just for your own benefit. It's to become a beacon of hope in your community. What do you mean? Look around, Daniel. Your city, like thousands of others around the world, is going through a very difficult time. People are getting sick, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Depression, anxiety, diseases that traditional medicine can't completely explain. While he spoke, I started thinking about people I knew. My neighbor, Mark, who developed an ulcer out of nowhere, and doctors couldn't discover the cause. My sister-in-law, Laura, who for 2 years has been fighting fibromyalgia that appeared after a very stressful period at work. My friend Kevin, who even taking all the anxiety medications, continues having panic attacks. They need something that goes beyond traditional remedies, the being continued. They need someone who can work with their vital energy, who can help them reconnect with their own healing force. But I don't know anything about this, I protested. How am I going to help someone if I don't even know how it works? That's why I'm here, he said. And for the first time, I noticed something that seemed like a broader smile on his face. I'm going to teach you. During the next few weeks, I'll appear to you at specific moments and pass on knowledge that has been preserved for millennia. Energy channeling techniques, energy cleansing methods, ways to identify blockages and imbalances. The idea was both exciting and terrifying. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not good at this? Daniel. His voice became softer, almost paternal. You've already been doing this for years. You just didn't know it. Remember when your mother called you after visits saying she was better? Or when your friends always felt more relieved after talking to you. You're already a natural healer. Now, we're just going to teach your consciousness to direct this gift more effectively. He extended his hand again. But first, I need you to understand the real importance of this mission. I'm going to show you something that will give you the dimension of the impact you can have. I hesitated for a second, but curiosity was stronger. I touched his hand again. This time, the vision was even more intense. I saw our city, but not from above. It was like I was walking through the streets, entering houses, hospitals, clinics. I saw a lady of about 70 alone in her apartment taking sleeping pills every night because loneliness wouldn't let her rest. I saw a young man of about 25 graduated in engineering who hadn't been able to find a job for 2 years and was developing severe depression. I saw a family mother fighting breast cancer, but who was losing the battle more from fear and despair than from the disease itself. All these people, said the being, could be helped with energy healing. I'm not saying you'll replace traditional medicine, but you can be a powerful complement. You can give them back hope, vitality, connection with their own inner strength. The vision changed. Now I saw myself in the future more confident, more radiant. I was in a simple room with a person lying on a table. I placed my hands over them and saw a golden light flowing from my fingers. The person on the table, who arrived tense and in pain, got up with a smile of relief on their face. I saw this happening several times with different people. Neighbor Mark, leaving with his ulcer healed. Laura, managing to get rid of fibromyalgia pains. Kevin having his first peaceful night's sleep in 2 years. Is this possible? I asked, still absorbing the images. Not only possible, Daniel, it's your destiny. You have the potential to become one of the most powerful energy healers in your region, but only if you accept this mission and dedicate yourself completely to training. We returned to the square. My mind was racing. And my personal life, my problems, unemployment. When you start living your true purpose, he explained, the universe conspires in your favor. I won't lie, you'll still have challenges, but you'll have an inner strength and direction that will completely transform how you deal with them. I looked at him, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. If I accept, when do we start? Now, he said simply. Your first lesson starts now. Close your eyes. I did as he asked. Breathe deeply 3 times. On the 3rd breath, imagine a golden light entering through the top of your head and descending through your entire body. I followed the instructions and man, I felt something incredible. It was like every cell in my body was being energized. This is your vital energy being consciously activated, he explained. During the next few days, practice this every morning when you wake up and every night before sleeping. It's the first step to completely awaken your gift. When I opened my eyes, he was starting to move away. Wait, I shouted. How will I know when you'll return? You'll know, he said, his form already beginning to become translucent. And Daniel, don't tell anyone about our meetings yet, not even your wife. People aren't ready to understand. When it's time to reveal your gift, you'll know. But what if I think it was all imagination? What if I wake up tomorrow thinking it was a dream? He stopped and looked at me one last time. Then practice the exercise I taught you, and observe what happens with your mother the next time you visit her. And with that, he simply disappeared. The golden light dissipated like smoke, and I was alone in the square again. But for the first time in months, I didn't really feel alone. There was a sense of purpose and energy pulsing within me that I had never experienced before. I walked home slowly, trying to process all of that. Was it possible? Could I really have a healing gift, or had I finally completely lost it? There was only one way to find out. I got home around 5:00 the morning. I lay there looking at the ceiling, replaying every second of that experience. With each minute that passed, everything seemed more surreal. Dude, you lost it. I thought you're going through a nervous breakdown. And now you're having hallucinations with aliens. When the alarm went off at 7, Elena had to teach. She noticed I was awake. Dan, didn't you sleep? Slept little, I lied. Insomnia. She got up and looked at me with that worried face I already knew well. Love, you need to seek professional help. This depression is getting too serious. Yesterday you left in the middle of the night. Came back just now. I just went for a walk. Walking until 5:00 the morning. Dan, for God's sake. I didn't know what to say. How to explain that I spent the night talking to a being from another dimension who said I have healing powers. She already thought I was in bad shape. Imagine if I told her that. "I'll get better," was all I could say. She sighed, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and went to get ready for work. After she left, I was alone with my thoughts. Throughout the day, I alternated between two extremes. Sometimes I thought everything had been real and felt excited. Other times, I was sure I was going crazy, and panic would hit. In the afternoon, I remembered the exercise the being had taught me. Oh, what harm can it do? I thought. I sat on the bed, closed my eyes, and tried to do that breathing with the golden light. In the first attempts, I didn't feel anything. See, it was all imagination. But on the fourth or fifth time, something happened. I felt a gentle tingling going down my spine. Nothing very intense, but definitely something different. Coincidence, I murmured to myself. In the following days, life returned to the same depressive routine. Wake up late, stay on the couch, pretend I was looking for a job, fight with Elena over any silly thing. The only difference was that every day I did that breathing exercise kind of secretly. And man, I swear I was feeling a little better, just a little. Maybe it was placebo, but there was a different energy circulating in my body. After a week, my mother called me. "Son, how long has it been since you came to visit me?" The guilt hit hard. Since that night in the square, I hadn't gone to the hospital. I was kind of avoiding it, afraid that nothing different would happen, and I'd have to accept that everything was imagination. "Sorry, Mom, I'm kind of complicated here, but I'll come today." "Okay, love. I'm missing our conversations." When I arrived at the hospital that afternoon, my mother was pale and clearly dejected. The nurse told me she had had some difficult days with nausea and a lot of tiredness. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to disguise my own anxiety. "Hi, my beautiful son," she replied with a weak smile. "Sit here next to Mommy." We talked about trivial things for a few minutes. She asked about work. I lied, saying I had some possibilities. But the whole time I was thinking, what if I try that technique here? What if it's really real? At a certain moment, she closed her eyes and said, "Oh, Dan, I'm so tired. Sometimes I feel like I don't have strength to continue this fight anymore." That's when something inside me decided. Without thinking much, I placed my hand on her arm. "Mom, stay quiet for a few minutes. I'm going to try something." She opened her eyes, curious, but didn't say anything. I closed my eyes and started doing the breathing the being had taught me. I imagined the golden light entering me, and then I tried to direct that light to my mother through my hand. In the first seconds, nothing happened. But then, man, I felt something. A kind of gentle warmth flowing from my chest to my hand. "And my mother, Dan," she whispered. "What are you doing?" "I'm feeling a nice warmth in my arm." My heart raced. She was feeling it. I continued for a few more minutes, trying to maintain concentration. When I opened my eyes, my mother was looking at me with an expression I hadn't seen in months. "Son, I don't know what you did, but I'm feeling different, lighter." I stayed there with her for another hour, and in that time, the change was visible. Color returned to her face. She became more animated. She even asked the nurse to bring fruit because she was hungry, something that hadn't happened in weeks. When I left the hospital, I was in a state of shock. It can't be, I thought. It's not possible that it's real, but it was. That night, my mother called me. "Dan, I don't know what happened today, but I feel better than in the last 2 months." The doctor even commented that my vital signs were excellent during the night rounds. I hung up the phone, trembling. It was real. That encounter, the gift, everything was real. But instead of being happy, I panicked. And now I thought, if it's really real, then my life is going to change completely. I'll have to accept that there's a much bigger world than I imagined. I'll have to take on enormous responsibility. What if I couldn't do it? What if I tried to help other people and it didn't work? What if everyone thought I was a crazy charlatan and Elena? How to explain to her that I suddenly discovered I have supernatural powers? I spent the following days on an emotional roller coaster, sometimes excited about the possibilities, other times terrified by the implications. That's when I realized I needed more proof. I needed to be absolutely sure before moving forward. If this being is really real, I thought he said he would return. So, I'll wait, and when he appears, I'll ask all the questions that are tormenting me. Do you believe there are superior beings helping us? Because I'm telling you, until that moment, I had always been skeptical about these things. But sometimes life presents us with experiences that force us to rethink everything we believe to be true, and his return was closer than I imagined. 3 nights after the hospital visit, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I felt that familiar tingling at the back of my neck. My heart started to accelerate because I already knew what it meant. I looked out the window and there he was outside in the backyard emanating that soft golden light. This time I wasn't afraid, just a mixture of relief and anxiety. I went out the back door and went to meet him. "You came back," I said, still half in disbelief. "I promised I would return," he replied with that telepathic voice. "And I notice you've already started testing your gift." "How do you know?" "The energy around you has changed, Daniel. It's brighter, more aligned. And your mother, how is she?" "Better. Much better. The doctors don't understand what happened, but she's responding to treatment in a surprising way." He nodded, satisfied. "But I need to understand better," I continued. "I need more certainty. What if that was just coincidence? What if I'm deluding myself?" "I understand your doubts," he said. "It's natural to question something so far from your previous reality. That's why I came today to give you a clearer demonstration of what you're capable of doing." "How so?" "There's someone in your neighborhood who urgently needs help. Someone you know and who can serve as definitive proof of your powers." I immediately thought of my neighbor, Mark. He was getting worse and worse with that ulcer. Last week I saw him coming home from the doctor with a terrible face. "Mark?" I asked. "Exactly. But it's not just the ulcer that's affecting Mark. There's something deeper. I'll show you." He extended his hand, and this time I didn't hesitate to touch it. The vision was different from the others. It was like we were inside Mark's house, seeing him sitting at the kitchen table alone, but this time I could see not just his physical body but also his energy. It was scary. Around his stomach, there was a dark, pulsating spot. But there were other spots too, one on his chest, pulsating with anxiety, and another on his head, loaded with negative thoughts. "What am I seeing?" I asked. "You're seeing the true cause of his illness. The ulcer is just the physical symptom of a much larger energetic imbalance. He carries grudges, repressed anger, fear of the future. All of this has created blockages in his vital energy." The vision changed. Now I saw myself entering Mark's house, placing my hands over him. I saw the golden light flowing from me to him and those dark spots beginning to slowly dissolve. "You can do this tomorrow," said the being. "But first, I need to teach you a more advanced technique." We returned to my backyard. "Sit on the ground and close your eyes," he instructed. I did as he asked. "Now, instead of just imagining the golden light entering you, I want you to feel it coming from a superior source. Imagine that there's a direct connection between you and the universal healing energy." While I followed the instructions, I felt something much more powerful than the other times. It was like my entire body had become a channel, a bridge between dimensions. "Very good," he said. "Now, learn to direct this energy. Place your hands in front of your chest and imagine the light flowing through them." When I did this, I opened my eyes and saw something incredible. There really was a soft light emanating from my palms, faint but visible. "Is this real?" I asked, looking at my own hands. "Completely real. You're seeing your own vital energy manifesting. With practice, it will get stronger and stronger." We spent the next hour doing exercises. He taught me how to feel energetic blockages, how to direct healing to specific areas of the body, how to protect my own energy during the process. "Now you're ready for the real demonstration," he said at the end. "Tomorrow, look for Mark. Say you heard about a relaxation technique that can help with stress. Don't mention energy healing or aliens yet. Just offer to try something that might make him feel better. What if it doesn't work? It will work, but you need to have faith in yourself. Energy healing requires pure intention, genuine compassion, and confidence in the process. And you? Will you be around? I'll be watching, but from a distance. You need to learn to trust your own power. The next morning, I woke up with an energy I hadn't felt in years. It was like all the cells in my body were vibrating at a different frequency. After Elena left for work, I went to Mark's house. He was in the yard, watering the plants, but you could see he was in bad shape, pale with the face of someone who hadn't slept well. "Hey, Mark, how are you doing?" "Oh, Daniel," he sighed. "I'm terrible, man. This ulcer won't get better at all, and now the doctor said I might need surgery." It was the perfect opening. "Mark, can I ask you a kind of strange question? Would you be up for trying a relaxation technique that might help with stress? I've been studying about this, and I don't know, it might give you some relief." He looked at me with suspicion, but also with desperation. "What kind of technique?" "It's something really simple. You just need to lie down and relax while I do some breathing exercises and therapeutic touch. Nothing weird, I promise." Mark hesitated for a few seconds, but the pain spoke louder. "Man, the way I am, I'll try anything. Let's go inside." When we entered his house, my heart was beating fast. It was my first real attempt with someone other than my mother. "Lie down there on the couch and close your eyes," I said, trying to sound confident. Mark lay down and I sat in a chair next to him. I closed my eyes and started doing the breathing the being had taught me. I immediately felt the energy begin to flow. I placed one hand over his stomach and another on his chest. "What are you doing?" he asked, but didn't open his eyes. "Just relax. Breathe deeply." In the first few minutes, I concentrated on sending healing energy to the ulcer region. I felt my hands warming up. And damn, I felt when his energy started to respond. It was like there was silent communication between our energy fields. After about 10 minutes, I moved one of my hands to his forehead because I realized there was a lot of mental tension there too. "Mark," I said softly, "while I do this, I want you to think about forgiving all the people who hurt you and forgiving yourself too." I don't know why I said that. The words just came out. We stayed like that for about 30 minutes. At the end, when I removed my hands, Mark slowly opened his eyes. "Man," he said with a different voice. "What did you do?" "I'm feeling, I don't know. Like I took some really good medicine." "What do you mean?" "The pain in my stomach, it's gone. And you know that feeling of anxiety I have all the time, that's gone, too." He sat up on the couch and looked at me with admiration. "Daniel, where did you learn this?" "It's something new I'm studying," I replied, still processing what had happened. Mark got up and walked around the living room. He was visibly different, lighter, more colorful. "Dude, in 2 years of medical treatment, no one has ever made me feel like this. What the hell did you do?" "Do you? Do you want me to come here again? Maybe we could do a few sessions." "I want to." "Wow, I really want to." When I left Mark's house, I was in a state of shock. It worked. It really worked. And it wasn't placebo or coincidence. Mark was physically better, visibly healthier. That night, he called me. "Daniel, man, something incredible happened. I went to the doctor this afternoon for those routine ulcer tests. The doctor was confused. He said the inflammation decreased drastically and that he's never seen such rapid improvement." I hung up the phone and started crying. But not from sadness, from gratitude, from relief, from pure joy. It was real. Everything was real. And I really had the power to help people. But I also knew this was just the beginning. After the experience with Mark, I spent 3 days in a kind of trance. It was like I had woken up from a very long dream and finally seen reality. A reality much bigger and more fantastic than I had ever imagined. But acceptance didn't come easy. It's not simple to accept that your entire life changed overnight, that you discovered you have a completely different purpose from what you always thought. On the 4th night, the being appeared again. This time in my backyard when I was sitting on the porch trying to process all of that. "How are you feeling?" was the first thing he asked. "Confused," I replied honestly. "Happy, but confused. It's too much to absorb at once. I understand. It's normal to feel this way when we discover our true nature. But you've already taken the most important first step." "What step?" You proved to yourself that the gift is real. Now, you need to make a conscious decision. Do you completely accept this mission, or do you prefer to return to the life you had before? The question caught me by surprise. Can I go back? You can. I can make you forget everything that happened. You would go back to being exactly who you were before that night in the square. But you need to decide now. I was silent for a few minutes thinking. Go back to depression, unemployment, the feeling of uselessness, or embrace something completely unknown. But that clearly had the power to transform not only my life, but other people's lives too. If I accept completely, I asked, what does that mean in practice? It means dedicating your life to developing and using this gift. It means studying, practicing, preparing to help hundreds, maybe thousands of people over the coming years. It means accepting a very great responsibility. And my family? My marriage? If you live your true purpose, everything in your life will align more harmoniously. But I won't lie, there will be challenges. Some people won't understand. Others might even criticize or question. You'll need courage to move forward even when doubts arise. I thought about Elena, how to explain to her that I discovered I have healing powers, how to tell her about the aliens. She already thought I needed psychological help. What if she doesn't accept it? Daniel. His voice became softer. Whoever truly loves you will support you. They might not understand at first, but true love always finds a way, and you'll be surprised by how many people in your life were waiting for someone like you. Someone who could offer an alternative, real hope for healing. He was right. In recent days, since the experience with Mark, I felt different with Elena, too. More present, more affectionate, more connected, as if that energy awakening in me overflowed into all aspects of my life. But I don't know anything about having my own business, about how to charge for sessions, about how to explain to the world what I do. One thing at a time, he said, almost laughing. First, you need to commit to the complete development of your gift. Then the universe will take care of opening the necessary paths. I looked at him then, at my house, where Elena slept peacefully. I thought about my mother, who was improving every day. I thought about Mark, who for the first time in 2 years was sleeping without pain. And I thought about all those people the being had shown me in the visions alone, sick without hope. If I accept, I said finally, will you continue guiding me? Yes, but differently. In the coming months, I'll appear periodically to teach you more advanced techniques, answer your questions, guide you on specific cases, but gradually, you'll become independent. You'll develop your own intuition, your own connection with the healing source. And after that, then you'll become a master. And who knows, one day you yourself will guide other healers who are awakening. The idea gave me chills. Me guiding other people. It seemed impossible. But 6 months ago, the idea of healing someone also seemed impossible. I accept, I said, and the words came out with a conviction that surprised me. I completely accept this mission. The moment I said that, I felt a wave of energy course through my entire body. It was like every cell had been activated at once. My hands started tingling, and for the first time I could see my own aura, a soft golden light around my entire body. Excellent, he said, and I perceived deep satisfaction in his voice. From now on, you are officially an awakened energy healer. Your intensive training begins today. Today? Now? Now. He approached and placed both hands over my head. I immediately felt a flood of information entering my mind. They weren't words, but pure knowledge, healing techniques, ways to identify different types of energetic blockages, protection methods, ways to connect with universal energy. It was like downloading years of study in a few minutes. When he removed his hands, I was breathless. What was that? A basic knowledge download, he explained. Now you have access to information that would take years to learn conventionally. But remember, knowledge without practice is useless. You'll need to use all of this, experiment, make mistakes, learn. I looked at my hands, and they were glowing in a way I had never seen before. I can really do this, I murmured more to myself. You always could, Daniel. You just forgot who you really were. Now you've remembered. We spent the rest of the night, or rather early morning, practicing. He taught me how to do a complete energy cleansing on a person, how to work with chakras, how to identify emotional traumas stored in the physical body. When the sun started to rise, I felt like a completely new person. Our next session will be in a week, he said, preparing to leave. Until then, practice daily the exercises I taught you. And Daniel, yes, it's time to tell your wife. She needs to know who you really are. My stomach froze. How am I going to explain? With honesty and love, and maybe with a practical demonstration. And with that, he disappeared, leaving me alone in the backyard with the rising sun and a completely new life ahead. I went into the house and went to the bedroom. Elena was still sleeping. I sat on the bed and stayed looking at her, thinking about how to start that conversation. Elena, I whispered, gently touching her shoulder. I need to talk to you about something very important. She slowly opened her eyes. What time is it, Dan? 6:00 the morning. But something happened that's going to change our life. She sat up in bed, noticing by the tone of my voice that it was serious. Did you get a job? I smiled. No. Love. I discovered what my true work in life is. The conversation with Elena was one of the most difficult of my life. Imagine waking up your wife at 6:00 the morning to tell her you discovered you have energy healing powers after talking to benevolent aliens. Dan, she said after I finished telling everything. Do you hear what you're saying? Aliens, healing powers. Love, you need professional help urgently. I expected that reaction. Actually, I would be worried if she had accepted everything immediately. Elena, I know how it sounds. I thought I was going crazy myself, but let me show you something. Show what? You haven't been sleeping well the last few weeks because of neck tension, remember? Let me try to relieve that. She hesitated, but the pain spoke louder. She was really uncomfortable in the cervical region because of stress. Just don't do anything weird, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. I sat behind her and gently placed my hands on her shoulders. I closed my eyes and started channeling energy as the being had taught me. I immediately felt warmth flowing through my palms. What are you doing? She asked. Your hands are getting warm. Just relax. I continued for about 15 minutes, directing energy to the tension points I could feel. When I finished, Elena rolled her shoulders and looked at me with an expression of total surprise. How did you do that? The pain is completely gone. And I'm feeling, I don't know, calmer. That's what I've been trying to explain to you. She stayed silent for a few minutes, processing. Even if you really have some kind of gift, she said finally, this alien story. Dan, I know it's hard to believe, but I need you to trust me. I need your support in this new phase of my life. The next few days were complicated. Elena oscillated between support and concern. Sometimes she encouraged me to explore this gift. Other times she suggested I see a psychiatrist, but the evidence kept accumulating. Mark continued improving spectacularly. In 2 weeks, he was completely cured of the ulcer. His doctor even commented that he had never seen such rapid and complete recovery. My mother too. The latest tests showed the tumor was shrinking much faster than doctors expected, and she was radiant, full of energy. But the real transformation was in myself. You know, that depression that had been consuming me for months. It simply disappeared. Not gradually, but from one moment to the next. It was like I had found my place in the universe, my reason for existing. I woke up every day excited, with energy, with purpose. Elena commented that it was like she had married a different person. You went back to being the Dan I met in college, she said one morning. Actually, you're even better, more centered, more confident. And it was true. For the first time in my adult life, I felt completely aligned with who I really was. The being continued appearing weekly, always teaching me more advanced techniques. I learned to work with deep emotional traumas, to do environmental energy cleansings, to identify and dissolve karmic blockages. Each learning session was like gaining years of experience in a few hours. After a month, I started seeing other people. First, close friends who heard about Mark's improvement, and my mother's then friends of friends. Soon, unknown people were looking for me. I installed a massage table in the guest room and transformed the space into a small office. I didn't charge anything at first. I just wanted to practice and help. The results were impressive. Laura, my sister-in-law, who suffered from fibromyalgia for 2 years, was completely free of pain after 3 sessions. Kevin, My friend with panic syndrome managed to abandon medications after 2 weeks of treatment. There was one case that really marked me. A 60-year-old lady, Mrs. Higgins, who lived 2 streets from my house. She had arthritis so severe she could barely walk. Her children looked for me as a last resort. When I first saw her, she was in a wheelchair with hands completely deformed by inflammation. "Young man," she said, "I don't really believe in these things, but my children insisted. Do you really think you can help me?" "Mrs. Higgins," I replied, "I'll do my best, but I need you to have a little faith in the process." It took 6 sessions. In the first, she could move her fingers without pain for the first time in 3 years. In the third, she was walking with a cane. In the 6th, she was dancing in my living room. "Boy," she said at the end with tears in her eyes, "you gave me back my life. How can I thank you?" "Mrs. Higgins," I replied, also emotional, "you help me more than you imagine. Each person I see teaches me something new about this gift." That's when I realized it wasn't just me healing people. It was an exchange. Each session strengthened me, too, connected me more deeply with my purpose. Elena, who was skeptical at first, started getting involved, too. She became my informal assistant, receiving people, scheduling sessions, even helping with some relaxation techniques. "Dan," she said one night, "I'm seeing the impact you're having on people's lives. It's incredible. Maybe this whole story is real after all." "Maybe," I joked. "Okay, it's real. I still don't understand completely, but it's real." After 2 months of seeing people for free, the being guided me to start charging for sessions. "You need to value your work," he explained, "and people need to invest something to value what they receive. Energy is exchange always." I started charging symbolic amounts just to cover basic costs, but I quickly realized I could live from this, and live well. In 3 months, I had a full schedule. People came from other cities to consult me. Some cases were so dramatic that I was impressed with the results myself. "My love," Elena said one night, "you need to see something." She showed me a notebook where she was recording all the cases I had treated. "In 3 months, you helped 127 people. Of those, 89 had significant improvement or complete healing. You have a success rate of almost 70%. I looked at the numbers and couldn't believe it. "And this is just the beginning," she continued. "Imagine what you can do in a year, in 5 years. But the biggest transformation wasn't in the numbers. It was in how I saw myself and how I saw life. Before I was just Daniel, an ordinary guy without clear purpose, struggling to survive in a world that seemed hostile. Now, I was a healing channel, a bridge between superior dimensions and people who needed help. I had a clear mission, real impact on the world, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly why I was here. You know what's most incredible?" I said to Elena that night. "What?" 6 months ago, I was in the worst phase of my life, thinking I was useless, that I was a total failure. And today, I help dozens of people every week to heal themselves, to find hope, to reconnect with their own strength. "It's proof that we never know what destiny has in store for us," she replied. "No," I corrected. "It's proof that sometimes our worst moments are just preparation for our greatest transformation." And I was right, because the best was yet to come. 1 year after that night in the square, my life was unrecognizable. Literally unrecognizable. What started as treatments in my house's guest room transformed into an energy therapy clinic, with 3 rooms, 2 assistants, and a schedule with a 2-month waiting list. But the numbers, however impressive they were, didn't tell even half the story. Let me tell you about Sophia. She came to me after 5 years fighting severe depression that appeared after losing her son in a car accident. She had tried everything: psychiatrists, psychologists, antidepressants, hospitalizations. Nothing worked. In the first session, I managed to identify that she carried gigantic energetic guilt, as if she were responsible for the accident. We worked together for 2 months, not just on energy healing, but also on emotional release from that guilt. Today, Sophia is a different person. She went back to work, reconciled with her husband, and most incredible, created an NGO to help mothers who lost children. She transformed her pain into purpose. Daniel, she told me in the last session, you didn't just heal me. You taught me it's possible to be reborn from ashes. Or Mr. Thomas's case, a 8-year-old retiree who had prostate cancer. Doctors had given him 6 months to live. We worked together intensively for 4 months, not replacing medical treatment, but complementing it. His latest tests show the tumor reduced by 80%. The oncologist, who was skeptical at first, now recommends energy therapies as complementary treatment for other patients. Young man, Mr. Thomas told me, smiling in the last consultation, you gave me back the will to live. Now I have plans for the next 20 years. But it wasn't just physical healings. The emotional and spiritual transformations were even more impressive. Sarah, a 40-year-old executive who lived in terrible chronic stress, discovered during our sessions that her true passion was art. She quit her corporate job and today is a fulfilled artist. Michael, a businessman who was on the verge of bankruptcy and divorce, learned to reconnect with his essence. He saved both his marriage and company and now practices much more human and conscious management. Each of these stories taught me something new about the healing power we all carry within, because I realized I wasn't healing anyone. Actually, I was just helping people reconnect with their own healing capacity. The being continued guiding me throughout that first year, but gradually spaced out the visits. The last time we talked, he told me, Daniel, you don't need me anymore. You've developed your own connection with the healing source. Now you're a genuine master, but what if I have doubts? What if a case appears that I don't know how to treat? Trust your intuition, he replied. And remember, you're never alone. Whenever you need superior guidance, it will come. Maybe not in the way you expect, but it will come. And he was right. After his visit stopped, I started receiving guidance in other ways. Vivid dreams with specific instructions, sudden insights during sessions, intuitions that always proved right. It was like I had developed a direct channel with superior intelligence. The results of my work started spreading organically. I didn't need to advertise or market. People healed themselves and spread the news. I received a call from the local radio wanting to do an interview. Then it was the city newspaper. Soon, people from other states started looking for me. Love, Elena said one night. You've become a reference. People are talking about your work even in São Paulo. But the recognition that moved me most came from an unexpected place. Dr. Stevens, the doctor who took care of my mother, looked for me for a conversation. Daniel, he said, I have to admit that at first I was very skeptical about your work, but I can't deny the results I've seen, not just with your mother, but with several other patients who started doing energy therapy. Doctor, I've always made it clear that I don't replace medical treatment. I know. And that's exactly why I want to propose a partnership. How about we work together? I take care of the medical part and you complement with energy. We can help many more people this way. That's how the first integrative medicine protocol in our region was born. Me, a guy who a year ago was unemployed and depressed, now working side by side with renowned doctors. The results of this partnership were even more spectacular. Cancer patients responding better to chemotherapy. People with depression needing smaller doses of medications. Autoimmune disease cases showing inexplicable improvements. My mother, by the way, was completely healed. Doctors declared total cancer remission. She got back the energy of a 50-year-old person, even at 62. Son, she told me at Sunday lunch, I always knew you were special, but I never imagined it would be like this, Mom. We're all special. Some just forget. And that's maybe the most important lesson I learned in that first year. We all have extraordinary gifts. We all have a special mission in this life. The problem is that most people never awaken to it. I started giving lectures about this, not just about energy healing, but about life purpose, about how to transform crises into growth opportunities. Do you think I'm special for having this healing gift? I would ask audiences. I'm not. You also have your unique gifts waiting to be awakened. The question is, are you willing to go through the transformation process necessary? Because I realized my depression, my unemployment, all those terrible months were fundamental for me to become who I am today. Without that journey through the valley of shadows, I would never have developed the compassion necessary to be a true healer. Life's greatest blessings, I used to say, often come disguised as greatest tragedies. At the end of that first year, I did a retrospective of the numbers. 847 people treated, 73% significant improvement rate, 156 cases of complete healing, 23 partnerships with health professionals, 12 lectures for a total of 3,200 people. But you know which number made me proudest. 0 days of depression, 0 days without purpose, 0 days questioning why I was here. Elena, I said to my wife on the eve of the first anniversary of that encounter in the square, can you believe the transformation that happened in our life? Sometimes I can't, she replied. It seems like we lived 3 different lives in the space of 1 year. And the most incredible thing, I continued, is that this is just the beginning. I feel the next years are going to be even more impactful. And I was right. Because that night, exactly 1 year after the first encounter, the being appeared one last time. Daniel, he said, I came to say goodbye and give you one last guidance. Say goodbye. My mission with you is fulfilled. You became everything we expected you to become. Now it's your turn to be the mentor of others who are awakening. He showed me a vision of the future. I saw a network of energy healers spread throughout the country, all connected, all working to elevate humanity's consciousness and health. You'll be one of the pioneers of this new healing era, he said. But always remember, the power isn't in you. You're just a channel. Stay humble. Stay in service to others. Thank you, was all I could say. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Daniel, he said for the last time, it wasn't us who believed in you. We just reminded you of who you always were, and he disappeared forever, leaving me with the certainty that my true journey was just beginning. 2 years have passed since that last encounter, and I can say the being was right. My journey really was just beginning. Today, as I write this story, I'm 39 years old and have a life I never could have imagined. The clinic transformed into an integrative medicine center with a team of 12 professionals, doctors, psychologists, physical therapists, nutritionists, all working in an integrated way. But the most incredible thing is that I'm no longer alone in this mission. In the last 2 years, other people with similar gifts started appearing. People who, like me, went through deep crises and then discovered they had extraordinary healing capacities. The first was Jessica, a 31-year-old nurse who lost her job during the pandemic and fell into severe depression. She looked for me as a patient, but during one of the sessions, I realized she also had a natural gift for energy healing. Jessica, I said during the treatment, have you ever thought that maybe you're not just a patient here? Maybe you're a future colleague. Today, she's one of the most talented healers on the team, specialized in children's emotional healing. She's already helped hundreds of children overcome traumas and blockages. Then came Robert, an engineer who was fired at 47 and was going through a deep existential crisis. During our work together, he discovered he had an incredible gift for healing addictions and dependencies. Daniel, he told me, after 6 months of training, for the first time in my life, I feel I've found my true purpose. Today, Robert coordinates our energy recovery program for chemical dependence with an 82% success rate, much higher than traditional methods, and so on. It seems there's an invisible network connecting these people. They arrive to me at specific moments, always after going through some major personal transformation. I realized my mission had evolved. It was no longer just healing people individually, but forming a new generation of energy healers. We created a training program that lasts 2 years. It's not easy. It requires total dedication, deep personal transformation, and real commitment to serving others. But the results are extraordinary. We've already trained 34 energy healers who now work in various cities across the country. Each developed their own specialty. Some focus on physical diseases, others on emotional traumas, others on spiritual issues. Love, Elena told me last month. Do you realize that energy healing centers are being created in various cities because of your work? It was true. I receive messages almost daily from former students telling about the results they're obtaining in their regions. Healing cases that challenge traditional medicine, transformations that go far beyond physical health. Andrew, for example, who graduated a year ago and returned to Goiânia, has already treated more than 300 people. He created a partnership with 3 hospitals in the city and is revolutionizing how they treat cancer patients. Nicole, who works in Salvador, specialized in healing domestic violence traumas. She developed specific techniques to work with women who suffered abuse and has already helped more than 150 people completely free themselves from these traumas. But what moves me most are the messages I receive from people who were healed by these former students. Dr. Daniel wrote Mrs. Thompson, 75 years old. I want to thank you for teaching Jessica. She healed me from arthritis that tormented me for 15 years. But more than that, she gave me back the joy of living. Or this one, which arrived last week. Daniel, my 9-year-old son, had selective mutism for 3 years. No psychologist could help. In 2 sessions with Robert, he went back to speaking normally. How can I thank you for training this angel? Of course, not everything is roses. We face resistance from some more conservative sectors of medicine, criticism from skeptics, questions about the scientific validity of our methods, but the results speak for themselves, and more health professionals are opening up to this integrative approach. Dr. Stevens, who was the first doctor to work with me, now coordinates a medical residency program that includes basic training in energy therapies. Daniel, he told me recently, in 5 years working together, I've seen things that traditional medicine can't explain. I can no longer ignore this reality. Besides the training work, we also expanded to other areas. We have an energy healing program for animals that has given incredible results, another for plants and organic agriculture, and even a pilot project for energy cleansing of urban environments. It seems there's no limit to where this energy can act, Elena commented the other day. And it really seems there isn't. My mother, who completed 5 years free from cancer, became a kind of informal ambassador for our work. She tells her story to everyone and has already brought dozens of people for treatment. Son, she told me last Christmas, sometimes I look at you and can't believe it. It seems like you came into the world for this. Maybe she's right. Maybe we all come into the world with a specific mission, but most never discover what it is. What I learned in all these years is that life's greatest transformations usually begin in our worst moments. That night in the square when I was at rock bottom was actually the beginning of everything. If you're going through a deep crisis now, I usually say in lectures, maybe it's not an end. Maybe it's the universe preparing you for your true mission. And there's always someone in the audience who identifies, who approaches afterward to talk, who tells me they're going through exactly that. What do I do? They ask. Trust the process, I reply. Keep your heart open and pay attention to the signs. When it's your time to awaken, you'll know. Because I learned we don't choose our mission chooses us. And when that happens, when we finally align with our true purpose, our entire life transforms in a way we could never imagine. Today, when I look back at that depressed and desperate guy from 3 years ago, I feel immense gratitude. Gratitude for the crisis that led me to that square. Gratitude for the encounter with the light being. Gratitude for each person who trusts me to help them heal. But mainly gratitude for discovering that we're all much more powerful than we imagine. That we all have unique gifts waiting to be awakened. That we all have a special mission in this life. The question is, are you ready to discover yours? If this story touched you in some way, if you feel you might also have a special mission waiting to be discovered, leave a comment telling your own experience. Have you gone through crisis moments that later transformed into blessings? Have you felt you have special gifts you haven't fully developed yet? And if you know someone who's going through a difficult time now, share this story with them. Maybe it's exactly what that person needs to hear to understand that their crisis might be the beginning of their greatest transformation. A hug full of light to you all, and remember, you're much more powerful than you imagine.